Well, hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present, a whole bunch of people today, starting, of course, with Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our Premier Solutions Engineer. Also joining us today, Christopher Martin, our other Premier Solutions Engineer, and Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of our documentation department. All three of them we're going to be talking today, and a couple of things. So today we were going to cover the Viewbox control, and Dion will still talk about that a little bit at the end, but we're actually going to push that off till next week because there have been some new changes in the world of PhoneGap. So let's get started there. Hello, is everyone there? Dion, Chris, Sarah?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent.
I'm here, unmuted finally.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to start today with Dion, who's going to go over his Viewbox presentation and what he will be covering next time. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, Dion. And I'll let you know when I can see your screen. There you are. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Hey, very important. You can't ask any questions of me, but we're all about questions. So you can go to the questions part of the Q&A of the GoToWebinar control panel and put your questions in there. And we'll be monitoring and trying to answer any and all we can through this presentation. As Dave mentioned, we were going to focus and continue our discussion of the Viewbox control. And I had a really fun presentation, which will be coming. So I just want to give you a preview of it. And then after that, as we've gotten a lot of questions about both Viewbox, but also the tabbed UI. So next presentation is going to be about the Viewbox control, and I'll give you a preview now. And then after that, we're going to dive back into the tabbed UI replacement and answer a lot of the questions that have come in from everybody. We really appreciate you sending those questions. It helps us put together content and capabilities to show everybody in the community how to do these things here. So as we've been talking about the Viewbox control, a lot of what we've focused on so far has been the data connectivity aspect of it, the ability to connect to APIs, the abilities to connect to databases. And you can link Viewboxes together and do a lot of really neat things there. But really the heart of what the Viewbox is about is presenting an amazing user interface for your clients, for your customers, for your users. And that's the real cool thing about the Viewbox. And that's what we're going to tackle next. So next time we meet, I'm going to do a presentation. This is a Viewbox running in alpha on a page. In fact, I'm running it in a UX on the page. And you'll see this looks dramatically different from our traditional UX pages, meaning our presentation of text boxes and labels and things like that. So when we meet next time, I'm going to go through a presentation on how you can build this using the Viewbox, using some HTML and CSS. Now, very important, I'm not going to show you the HTML. Well, I will show you the HTML and CSS, but the real secret is I didn't develop it. I had someone else do it, and I integrated it into Alpha. It was really neat and really came across and allowed me to create something I personally don't have the skills to, but will allow you to quickly leverage an enormous amount of incredible designers and capability and people who have a real deep understanding of that. So next week, we're going to go through and show you how to take a Viewbox with all this nice bootstrap functionality, the coloring, everything else, and integrate it and then make it, more importantly, data-driven in your system. And we're going to go step by step to show you how to do that. And we'll provide you all the source files so you can go ahead and do that at home when you have time. So with that, that's what we're going to be looking at. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to our esteemed colleague, Dave.
Thank you very much, Dion. So as some of you may know, there have been some changes in PhoneGap Build, or more importantly, there haven't been changes in PhoneGap Build. As the world progresses, both the App Store and Google Play, Adobe's PhoneGap Build has not been keeping pace. Now, we use PhoneGap and PhoneGap Build in Alpha Anywhere, so we needed to come up with some sort of replacement for this, because starting very soon, in fact, I think starting today, some of your new apps being submitted to the App Store using PhoneGap Build will not work. They won't be accepted by Apple. But I am not going to explain the whole problem. Instead, I'm going to let Sarah Mitchell here go over what the issue is, and then we're going to go after that to Chris Martin to show you one of our solutions. So, Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, unfortunately, a few years ago, I think it was in June 2018 or thereabouts, Apple deprecated the use of UI WebView, which was the way that HTML5 applications could interact with the devices on a mobile device. And that's the framework that services such as PhoneGap Build and Cordova CLI use so that you can easily build an app using the familiar tools of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then deploy that on a mobile device. A few years ago, Adobe put PhoneGap into maintenance mode, and they have made 0 updates to the iOS portion of their product. And it looks like they haven't been updating their Android portion either, but that is still working. Unfortunately, this means you can no longer use PhoneGap to build any iOS applications. This is a problem for anybody who is using PhoneGap, and there's no sign that Adobe is ever going to update PhoneGap Build to accommodate this new requirement. And the issue, like with Adobe on this product specifically, is that even though you may be using the WK WebView and you have to now, that's a requirement. That's what Apple says you need to use. And we have included Alpha's WK WebView in the latest pre-release. It's got all the UI WebView references stripped out of it. It'll totally work. That's a solution that you need to use, but because PhoneGap automatically inserts UI WebView into the build process, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can't use Adobe PhoneGap anymore to build your applications. So starting today, April 1st, 2020, Apple no longer will accept new applications that have any UI WebView references whatsoever in the application. And then later this year, in December 2020, they will also cease accepting updates to apps that reference UI WebView. So you need to move to WK WebView now if you have any existing apps and you want to keep them up to date. Additionally, another requirement that's coming, you may have seen it, and that is that iOS applications must also target the iOS 13 framework. And the latest version of Xcode 11 and the newer ones coming out support that. But again, because Adobe hasn't updated PhoneGap, you cannot target that platform. So it's just not going to be a solution you can use anymore. And that deadline to ensure that all apps meet that compliance is set for June 30th. So any app submitted to the App Store will have to meet that iOS 13 requirement. So that's what's going on. Chris is going to show you today how you can use Mac and Cloud to achieve this new, to build new iOS apps to meet these new requirements. If you're only doing Android, PhoneGap should still work for you. Otherwise, this is a solution you're going to have to look to move forward with iOS.
Likewise, if you're using like Alpha Launch or something like that, that'll continue to work, and we do plan to keep that updated in the store as well. So this is only if you're submitting yourself to the Apple App Store, which a fair number of people are doing. Thanks very much, Sarah. Now that we sort of understand the problem, let's go over to Chris, who I know has for years shown how to do what we call client-side building, which doesn't use the PhoneGap service, but does require a Mac computer. And since we know a lot of you don't have Mac computers out there, we actually found an inexpensive service where you can rent one in the cloud. And today, Chris is going to be demonstrating that. So Chris, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter.
Yeah, let's see. I think that's the correct screen.
Chris, by the way, has like 7 screens. He has the most advanced setup I've ever seen when it comes. It looks like a TV studio at Chris's office. So
it's actually an even cooler reason. I found out that I can also send things from. I have 2 iPads, so I can send things to my iPads also. So instead of 4 screens, I can now have 6 screens.
That's insane.
Just trying to see how much radiation I can do. Maybe get a little suntan here while I'm working.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Remember, we should be doing everything in hex, so 6 is not a good number.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So you can see my screen. Let's see. Let me.
Yep, I see waves in the ocean.
Useful here. So, okay. So I am basically RDPing from my Macintosh to a PC to demonstrate this, because I tried using parallels, and the display is very small when you're using parallels, which you don't really need parallels if you wouldn't have to do this if you had a Mac machine to run parallels, so you wouldn't have to do this. So it might be a little bit slow running because I'm going to be RDPing to one machine, and then I'm going to be RDPing to another machine when I show you Mac in cloud. So this is a simple project that I created here, Hello World button. When I click on it, there's going to be a little alert message. Anybody that's built a PhoneGap project before knows that your next step to get your app published is to go to your web projects control panel, select PhoneGap, and by default, what used to come up was PhoneGap Build, in which you would have to add your username, password, and other information here to publish to PhoneGap Build. What's been in here for quite a while, I last presented this at a DevCon, Alpha DevCon back in 2017, I believe it was, is to build is to do a CLI build. And what this does, Alpha creates all the files required for iOS, which is all we're going to be demoing right now. It also does everything you need for Android. It creates all the files that you're going to need to pull a project into Xcode on a Mac machine. So here's my initial component that I'm loading here. Just some basic information about the application that I created, that I'm creating here. It's very minimum. That's all I needed to do here. Plus, to go to here to the Alpha and select Alpha WK WebView engine, which replaces the UI WebView that Apple has deprecated. So after I do that, I say, instead of launching the PhoneGap, save and launch PhoneGap CLI Builder. And that, by default, this will be unchecked. And this would be C:\\. What I did is I created a folder called CLI Builds to store my files. And then I told it to generate an iOS build here. Check that, build the app. And it should have created all the files and saved them to my local machine, which I'm going to go take a look at now, which is CLI Builds right here. So I created a folder called CLI Builds, and this is the files that were created right here. I then, in order to do this on your Mac machine, you would basically copy these files over to your Mac. But Mac in the cloud, what you have to do is put your files up to, for instance, I'm using DropBox. So I had to copy my files from here up to DropBox in order to get them on the Mac in cloud that I'm using. Here's my Mac in cloud machine here right now. So I'm RDPing to from my machine here, which when you get a Mac in cloud account, excuse all the screens on here, but it's just a little easier to find things. You get a folder here that you download when you create your Mac in cloud account, which it gives you all pre-set up RDP connections here. I'm using the Mac in cloud full screen connection. You can also run this right from Mac in cloud. You can go to your account and run Mac.
So they build the RDP connections for you, and you just kind of double click, and you just choose the screen resolution you'd like to work on, and
that you would like to work from. Yeah, and this is what I found out when I did Mac in cloud full screen from Parallels. I had this little tiny screen. It wasn't easy to work with, so that's why I'm running it off my PC. But if you have, go ahead.
A new definition of the word full, I think.
Yeah. So it was full screen, but it was really tiny full screen.
Chris, would you mind going to the Mac in Cloud website just so that people will know if they are going to get their own account that they're at the right place?
Okay. Yeah. So I believe I have that here. So
there we go.
It might be a little slow. So this is the Mac in Cloud website, Mac in Cloud. You can put a link to that up there, and we have some pricings here for different plans that you can select. The one that I'm using. Did you
choose the cheap one, the $20 one, or the?
That's what I'm using. That's what Bob used for his demo here. That's what I'm using. You can also get a dedicated server for more, which will run a little should run a little faster for you than RDPing to a managed server. This will give you a little more speed. Even though it's $20, they say $20 plus because there are features that you can add. You can add more drive space, do things like that as part of these accounts. So they say $20 is the minimum to create an account.
Sure.
So if you minus $10 from your PhoneGap account that you're paying for now, this will be an extra $10.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
To have a Mac account here. And
thanks for that.
I'm not sure if this is that. Yeah, that's that. Oh, and I'm going to show a little later on. In order to get it to your device, this has been out there for a while. Development in-house apps wireless installation. This is another application that Bob talks about in this video that you're able to then publish your IP to get it on a device, because you can actually connect your device and see it through the cloud. Have Mac and cloud see your device. That's one of the advantages of running on your own Mac, is you can connect your own personal device and test your applications that way. So this is called, and this will be all documented, how to get to this and how to drop files in here and get them on your device. This is something that Sarah and I are working on documenting to make it as easy as possible for you. So there'll be some documentation coming out very soon on how to do everything that I'm showing here in greater detail. So this right now is my Mac and cloud. I'm already keyed into it right now. These are the files that I moved from my DropBox. That's one thing about DropBox. That you have it. They already give you the software in DropBox, but it's a special connection into your account, which then gives you a DropBox folder here, which you can connect. You can see your DropBox account. So you can see here, I have a Mac and cloud, and in that Mac and cloud were the files that I dragged, which they're not in here right now because I dragged them out of there and pulled them onto my desktop here. So these are the files that were created when I used PhoneGap Build to create the CLI files here. So these are the files that I dragged over. The next thing you're going to need to do once, and by the way, all the software that you require to do a build is already installed on this machine. So it's already set up for you. The only thing I had to set up was my DropBox account to get the files over. And I'll document that. I'll have to unattach it so I can get through all the screens again. Because once you connect, it doesn't bring you through that stuff again. So the next program that I'm going to need to run here in order to open this up into Xcode, which is installed on here for you also, is I need to go to my application. So anybody that's new with a Mac, this is the viewfinder. This is kind of like Microsoft's file viewer, where I can view things on my desktop. I can view things, documents, folder, downloads. I can go to anywhere I want on the computer here, and to drill down to get into other files that I have stored on my Mac here. But also all your applications are under this tab right here and this is the viewer right here. So that's the finder. So when you click on Finder, this will open it up, but it might be on one of these other options here. So I clicked Applications, and I'm going to go down to a thing called Utilities. And under Utilities is a terminal, which is kind of like the command prompt in Windows. So I'm going to open up Terminal. I'm hoping you're able to see this. Good. Can you see see the terminal, Dave?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to do an ls command. Basically, this is going to give me a list here of all I can change directory to. So sort of like Microsoft Word, you can do a CD and Documents, and that will change directory to Documents. Or you can do a CD to Desktop to view the desktop. So I'm change it to desktop. Oh, I got to change it back first. Or change directory backslash.
Maybe 2 spaces.
Does that get me back there? No, it doesn't, but that's okay. I'm just going to copy these files into Documents, and that will get it there. So here's my Documents. I'm just going to move these files over into Documents. I'm kind of new with using the terminal software, so I'm in the documents folder here. The next thing I need to do is I run a thing called bash. And this is already installed for you. If you're running your own Mac computer, you'll have to install all the software for this, and that will be documented 100% on how to install the software. So I'm going to run bash, and the name of the file that I want to bash. That's why I changed the directory to that to documents. So it was easier to get the path in here that I want to call. So build.sh, and it's going to build. So you see, it basically unzipped that source file, creating new folders for you here, creating the project. It's doing lots of stuff here. It's running everything through PhoneGap to build everything you need for Xcode here, and it's done. And this is the folder that it created here, test app. So if I open that up, and then there's a folder in here called platforms. Like I said, all this will be documented. Platforms. The platform I want is iOS, and under here is a my app Xcode project. So if I double click on Xcode project, this would automatically open the application that I created using Alpha Anywhere and show you it using native Xcode on a Mac. I already have a viewer open here, so this is the one I'm gonna write it to. There's also a place in here which just before this presentation I couldn't find it, but there's a place in here where you want to make sure, and this is in Bob's demo video, but this will also be documented, where you change. You need to make sure that you're using a particular version of Xcode when you do your of iOS when you do your build, which I'll have that in the documentation. But this will run anyways. But you'll need to have that version when you do your build, or it will, if you're using an early version, it may fail publishing. It will fail publishing to when you try to publish your app to the store. So I'm going to hit the play button here. So I'm running on the iPhone 11 here. I'm going to hit the play button, and it's going to build my Cordova application here in Xcode. And by the way, I'll show this a little once it's done here. There's my app. It's launching. You see the alpha software. By the way, this is an emulator. It should run faster, and you're basically running in debug mode. Here's my little hello world that I put on there. And when I click on it, it pops up hello world and alert. So that's a program that I wrote. This is running. This will run just the same on a device. There's a little more setup that you're gonna have to do if you're to run it on your device, which I'll be documenting on a Mac. If you have a Mac, you can connect your device and publish and view it on your device. One of the benefits of using the emulators is you have a ton of emulators here that you can choose from all different devices to test the app and look at it on. You can imagine what an iPhone and any Apple device costs, how much this would cost you to get all these devices.
To own all those. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You get all this that you can test your application on. So that's one of the benefits you have using the Mac Cloud.
Yeah.
Or doing that. The other benefit that you have is all the provisioning files and everything that you had to do to even test on your own device. They had to create using PhoneGap Build. You no longer have to create those files, and there's also there'll be a direct link once you have everything set up properly here. There'll be a direct link from your Xcode to your Apple developers account. So you'll have to have an Apple's developers account, and much of the stuff that you had to do for creating your apps and setting things up in PhoneGap, it'll happen automatically here using Xcode, because you're basically using the native environment. So you're getting all the advantages of your native builder here. Now, basically, this is what Adobe PhoneGap Build was doing for you. basically it is a requirement by Macintosh that you build your applications on a Mac. You can't build your applications on a PC, although there's ways around it. If you want to build your application legally, they require that you build on their machine. So PhoneGap basically had a bunch of Mac machines on their server, which they would take all your files that you generated in the format that they needed it, all the files that you generated, it would upload it to a Mac machine and do it, everything that we're doing right here by hand, it would do it for you. The other thing that you need to get also with this is to be able to debug your application. Bob shows a little example of this in his video of debugging, and we will also be creating documentation on that also, on all the steps required to set up debugging.
So speaking of the video, a lot of people haven't seen this video. It's pretty good, but it will be out very shortly. It's going to be part of a blog post, which is going to go up pretty soon after today's webinar. It'll up by Sarah, and it will link over to Bob's video that Chris keeps referring to. It's a good thing to watch as well, a good supplement to what Chris will be covering today.
Yeah. Bob will take you to the area where he explains, how you have to set the version and everything in there. That's explained in the video. That part of the video is about a half hour long, where he takes you through and he shows you the debugger and everything. What Sarah and I are going to be creating for you is all the documentation on how to set all of this up and understand what you need to know to run in this, because many people aren't familiar with Mac. So we're going to give you the fine detail on how to do this, which is not covered as much in Bob's videos. Also, we will be creating documentation if you have your own Mac machine, how to set up an environment. This has already been done for you, but there's quite a few steps and things that you need to do that you have to install on your Mac machine in order to build locally on your own Mac box using the CLI builder. And we'll be documenting all that and have that out very soon. I have much of it already created for what you need to install in software, and Sarah's gonna be taking all my screenshots and everything and putting up step-by-step instructions on how to do this. We're gonna take you through the entire process to make it as simple as possible. We won't leave anything out of it when we're doing the documentation, because there are things that can happen when you're installing on a Mac, depending on what your permissions are and things like that. And I take you through in documentation and show you how to set up those permissions and do all that stuff with screenshots. So it's going to be really easy to follow. I showed Sarah some of this yesterday, and she believes this is the type of documentation we'll need to present to everybody, because a lot of people are going to be new with a Mac. So you're going to be learning.
Yeah, where's Windows Explorer? Why is it called Finder?
It's called,
how come I can't launch a second version of the app at the same time as the first one? Yeah, there's little niggly little things. Yeah.
I mean, I even have to remember how to find my way around the Xcode here to find that section and setting up things. Bob shows it pretty quickly in his app. There's some things that you're gonna have to set up, I'm pretty sure. He's already connected to his Apple account. I may need to do some documentation on how to do that, but we will make sure we have everything you need step by step to get over this hump.
What you showed, it didn't look that painful. It looked like you go into Alpha Anywhere, you build the file as a CLL file versus PhoneGap Build file. Then you need to get it up onto your Mac, and in this case, you used DropBox. And then from DropBox, you dropped into a command line and you ran, it looked like just one command, a bash command to turn it into a file that Xcode could use. And then from Xcode, it was able to create it and run it in the emulator.
Yes, the pain in this whole process, the biggest pain will be if you're using your own Mac and getting that set up, but that's a one-time thing. You set it up once, and then it's this simple. If you use Mac in cloud, this is all those steps that I will be showing there have been done for you. So
Mac and Cloud has preloaded an awful lot of software for you and gotten a lot of stuff reconfigured.
Yeah, they did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
for you.
that's great. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's how easy it is. It's going to be to do. And also part of our documentation we'll be doing is all the steps and then getting your app from Xcode into into the App Store. All of that's going to be a lot easier than the way we had to do it before, using App Loader and loading it into App Loader, then App Loader pushing that up to the Apple Store. A lot of that stuff will be taken out of this also. You'll be doing it directly from Xcode, pushing it to the store.
That's cool. I also like all the emulators. I mean, it's compared to Alpha Anywhere, that's a real list, you know.
Yeah,
of things that you can look at
ton of
things. Yeah.
emulators that you can run this on. It's
And so those emulators aren't just simply screen sizes and shapes. It's right. It's actually pretending that there's real iOS running in the background. Is that how these
I
things
believe
work?
so. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
typical, like most emulators. I'm not sure about cameras and things like that, if they emulate using your
Right. That's a
camera
great question, or your GPS, or yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
things like that. Yeah, I'll find out. I haven't used these in quite a while. I was doing Xcode development over 6 years ago, so
Right.
a little refreshing to do on my part also. So
that's great. So we have some questions that we go over. The first one is, do you think that a Mac Mini should be capable of handling this?
the latest version that I had to get of a Mac, let me open this up to see if this has the right, because I believe this has the version that I just installed. So right here, there's a little apple in the corner. This is how you get the version information about the Mac that you're running. It required 10.14.6. It's 0.6. When I installed,
and that works, and you're looking at
the answer is for sure. There's the new Mac Mini for sure, but I mean, what you're seeing right there is actually he's using a Mac Mini up on their system. Yeah. So I think it's more the iOS requirement. You have to just make sure. I think you're right. 2012. Anything before that, you're not good. And you can go on Craigslist. There's tons of Mac Minis for sale, eBay. But they slowly deprecate the iOS, and that's what it's linked to. It's sort of Xcode's related to iOS version. And right now, if it's 2012 and later, you're good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about.
I'm not running Mojave on my actual Mac. I'm running the latest version.
The latest, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little different than what's installed here.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if you don't, I mean, it's sort of a decision. I think you can get a used Mac Mini, a couple $100, $300, or you can get one of these accounts for $20. Nice thing is you don't have any hardware. So, but yeah, you can use the Mac Mini. I can't say enough good things about the Mac Mini. I own two. They're really wonderful machines. And I use it for running parallels in Alpha Anywhere. And it's nice and quick.
Yeah, they're workhorses. They just don't break.
Nice.
And so you had mentioned what you're getting here right now.
Right. Yeah. So you had mentioned that you use DropBox in this case, but would it be possible to use Google Drive? I'm almost positive Google Drive is available for Mac.
I'm pretty sure Google Drive would be available also. We'll be gathering up all that information, more detail. I just opened this account yesterday
or the day before. Yeah.
I just opened this account, so it was basically just getting myself through and getting everything I needed installed, and then going through the whole process and testing it over the past few days. And it's, like I said, once everything is set up, it's that simple to publish your app and get it running on the device. A lot easier than it used to be with PhoneGap Build, because you had to already have your Mac account and everything ready. I'm not sure if you actually, I don't think you actually even need a Mac developer account. I didn't refer to my Mac developer account at all right now. So when you get this,
you need it when you put it up in the store, but you wouldn't.
Yeah, you'll need it when you put it up in the store, but to run it on an emulator, you will need your developer's account to run it on a device if you're running your own personal machine. But using Mac in the cloud, I did not tie this to my account yet. I will be. That's part of my documentation here, how to attach it to your cloud account. Your Alpha developer's account. That will be part of the documentation on how to do that. So I haven't done that here. So you can see here, this all works. You can test the Alpha app right out of the box here using this using this tool, Mac and
Yeah,
across.
that's fantastic. So 2 more questions. The first one is it correct to say PhoneGap is going to be obsolete, or are they just slow to update? Now they haven't said for sure that we're shutting this down, but I would be surprised if they make any updates. I'm gonna, if I had to put money on it, I'm gonna say that PhoneGap is gonna be obsolete, like for
And
even
I would
Amazon.
like to elaborate. I would like to elaborate on that, and that
Sure.
is that the last time PhoneGap updated it, there was an update to it. They updated to CLI 9.0, and I think we're up to CLI 11 at this point. So they have no plans to update iOS at all. The product is in maintenance mode. No one is actively working on it, and all of the posts on their forums say you need to find another way to do this because Adobe's not going to update it for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that definitely
And
answers
by the way,
that.
this ability to do this has been there for many years now. Back in 2017 is when the documentation was put up. Also in 2017, we did a presentation on this. So the
Right.
ability has always been there, but PhoneGap Build was just an easy way around it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it does still work for Android, but again, because they haven't been updating it,
It won't work
we
forever.
don't know how much longer that will be. Android is admittedly more lax on their requirements of what version you need to build for. But to answer another question that I saw, can you do this on Android as well? You can. The process is a little bit different, but you would use Android Studio to create that CLI build.
Oh, great. Good question. And the last one is, so can we get rid of our PhoneGap account? Well, if you're using this method, you will not need a PhoneGap account. So that's a yes.
Well, but remember,
Unless
if
you're
you get rid
doing
of your
Android.
PhoneGap, you're going to have to set up to build your Android, so.
Android's different, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that documentation is also coming forward. We're creating all that. I'm basically upgrading the old documentation that I created back in 2017 with new screenshots, which means I have to go through the entire process and get all these screenshots.
Well, yep, that's how it goes. Funny. It looks like we've run to the end of our questions. Does anyone here have anything else they want to add, or does someone want to sneak in a last minute question? And if not, I think we will break. I think that's it. Hey, listen, team, thank you very much for getting this together. If you do have any questions about Alpha Anywhere, PhoneGap, whatever, please send an email to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. Be happy to take care of it. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday, and stay well. Bye-bye.